take you home.
Hello and welcome to the Help My Unbelief podcast, the #1 Christian podcast designed for the unbeliever. Hey, dude.
Hey, how are you?
We should talk like this
Man,
all the
I
time.
missed you.
I
Oh,
did too.
dang.
That's crazy.
How's it going?
That's crazy because I missed you too. Guess what? Mark is back.
Yes. Praise the Lord. Mark is back in the house.
Yeah.
You know how to do curly?
How to do?
Take a
No.
little
Whoop,
pepper.
whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, you sniff it.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
I can't do it. I
So
used to be
now,
able to describe-
now we're snorting pepper
No.
and
and we're drinking vinegar. Did you like that video I sent you?
Dude, it was
I would
like-
really rather. Let's just start this over.
I loved it. It was fun.
Did you see that, Larry?
We're not going to make references.
It was
toward
funny. It was funny. Nero commented on that video of the
Vinegar.
of the vinegar, and he said Larry threw his phone across the room when he saw this. I made another video. I just smiling. It was hilarious because Larry probably did. He's like, oh, but now we're talking about snorting peppers. So now I got to make
that.
a video
no,
doing
you're
that.
crazy. No.
You go for it, dude.
I will.
I'll stand on the side and laugh.
Say I won't. I'll do it. I don't care. Got to get some action in somehow, you know. Okay, so this story might take a while, but I've been waiting to tell
Yes,
Larry
you
and Mark
held
this
us
story.
in anticipation, like a Hunt's bottle, turned upside down, trying to drip the ketchup out.
Is making
Well, most of them have like a vacuum to where you can just go.
Well, okay, I'm old enough to remember glass bottles on ketchup.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
do
have
too,
plastic.
but-
Okay.
Remember when they put it on its side and the commercial is just waiting for that just to come out the edge?
Actually, I said that wrong. I think it's Heinz 57 is the
It was Heinz
right
57.
because they literally had a 57 on the neck that if you tap the 57, you tap it in the right spot.
It would
ketchup
come
came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, that's crazy.
That was a little trick.
Okay, so
Okay, anyway.
I'm going to explain because Mark wasn't here last week, right? Mark wasn't here last week, and so I'll tell him kind of a little recap last week. But I had a little bit of a breakdown right here on the show last week because I've been kind of keeping something inside. I've been having some doubts and some concerns and stuff lately, and I've been keeping it in. Like I've been getting really close to these people that I interview, and I carry on a relationship with them outside of here in comments, DMs, stuff like that, and I love them genuinely. And the thought of them going to hell is not sitting well with me at all. And so, anyway, I've been struggling with. I've been keeping it locked in, but it's
You also talked to Pastor Gary about it.
yeah. I ended up. Well, I talked to Larry about it, and I know Satan stops me a lot from voicing it because I feel like I've told you this before, but I feel like I know how you're going to respond to it. And I feel like I know how Pastor Gary's going to respond to it. But both of you guys responded to it differently than I thought you would. And I appreciate the way you handle it. I feel like a weight's been lifted from me. After I got done talking with you on the show, and then I talked with Pastor Gary after the show about it. And Pastor Gary pretty much said that what I feel is necessary in order to spearhead a ministry of what I'm doing. You have to have that pain and that sorrow for this type of things, or it won't work. And so that I'm okay with the pain as long as it has a purpose.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, so it was good to just get that off my chest. But inside of all that, I've also been having other doubts that me and my wife's been talking recently and stuff like that. And we've been talking like, is God really, we believe God exists, but is God really active in our everyday life? Like, is he really guiding us, talking to us and stuff like that? Or is this kind of one of those things like, make the best choice you can and we'll see you when you get there type of thing?
Doesn't the Bible say that he is
Well,
always with you?
Hold on. I'm going to say God answered my question clear as a bell, but it's all in the story, right? So anyway, most of you know, I think I've even said this on the podcast before, but Larry and Mark know, and Darcia back here know that I went through a severe financial issue in the winter time.
Winter,
Yeah. To the point where a miracle was needed to pull out of it. And we're not out of it just yet, but almost. we're this next month. We signed 6 deals pretty much in the last week, and this next month we're going to be ahead of the curve again. And so, and in the winter, at one point we even tithed our last bit of money, change and everything. And I had a vision of God where He promised me. He said, I heard Him say in a vision. He said, all of it. He said, tithe all of it, and I'm going to restore all of it. And He's fulfilling His promise. I haven't lost anything. I haven't defaulted on anything yet. Anyways, it's looking like He's going to pull us out of all of it. So me and Angela were actually able to take the kids on a little vacation this weekend. And it was really cool because we were at this water park lodge type thing, and we were sitting out on this balcony early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun was just starting to rise and stuff like that. Another really cool thing that was happening while we were out there was this mama bird that had a nest out on our balcony. And it was so cool. She had like 6 little chicklets that were hanging out on the edge of it. And she would go get a bug. And then when she'd come back, all the birds would go, weep, beep, 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 beep. And then she'd feed one, and then they'd be quiet again until she showed back up. And she kept just one-on-one, there's like 5 of them. She kept just coming in and feeding one of them at a time and stuff like that. And I was like, wow. Well, while we were sitting here watching this mama bird feed these babies, me and Angela were talking about how crazy it was that God restored us. And my attitude in particular during this whole thing was less than ideal of the way one of God's children should be acting. And He still delivered His promise, which shows that not only is God good, but He's dang sure better than me, because if one of my kids acted the way I did, I would not finish my promise. I'd be like, you don't deserve me to fulfill my promise to you. I know I told you I was going to bail you out of this financial situation, but the way you acted in the middle of this, no. And it just shows how much God loves us. It shows us His love, right? But we still have those questions. It's like, just how active is God in our everyday life? Like, does He actually care? Like, why is He letting people suffer? Why is He letting people go to hell? Blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And we hadn't answered that question yet. But like I said, we were outside talking about it. Right after I got done talking to her, I got on the phone with you, and I was telling you about how like it was just amazing how God pulled us through this. And then anyway, we ended up leaving the lodge, and we've just had a really good weekend of gratefulness. Well, yesterday morning, how I've told you guys on the podcast, and you guys in particular, about how God speaks to me. He wakes me up in the middle of the night. Sure enough, He woke me up in the middle of the night with a Bible verse. He woke me up with, 1 second, I'm going to find it. It's Matthew 10, 29 and 31, okay? And it says, Jesus tells His disciples, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care." It's about God providing for you, right? And so I was like, okay. So basically what that Bible verse means is like Jesus is showing how worthless, basically, like 2 sparrows are worth 1 penny. They're basically worthless, right? But God makes sure they eat all the time. That's what they do. God provides for these sparrows no matter what. And how much more are you worth to God to make sure you're? So that takes me back. And I'm like, okay, God, I see what you're saying. Like, I get it that you're saying that that I'm worth more than the sparrows, and you proved yourself, you've taken care of me, but what do you mean by this verse? And then it hit me. That bird that was feeding its young at Great Wolf Lodge, I Googled it, and if I had any hair on my arms, I'd be standing up right now. It was a sparrow.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, praise the Lord, man.
Yeah. I Googled it because I didn't know, but I remember her little niche in her tail that she had, a little heart-shaped tail, and I looked back at it. Sure enough, it was a sparrow, man. Oh. And God woke me up in the middle of the night. So not only did that show me that God has given me no reason not to trust Him, and I threw a fit like a little baby but that also answered my question that God is active in our everyday life and cares about it.
God's into the smallest detail that you don't even comprehend at times. We talk about the sparrow because that's mentioned in the Bible, but He takes care of ants. Yeah, He takes care of doodle bugs. I mean, that's pretty gross. But
what's a doodle bug?
Dung bug, you mean?
Dung bug.
Dung bug?
Yeah.
Dung
we
beetle?
call them, they're doodle bugs. Anyway, I mean, He takes care of every organism on this planet.
Yeah.
And we've made God so small in our mind that at a time I wouldn't pray unless it was like a big thing. And I wouldn't pray. I'm not going to bug God for this. This is something I can handle. I can handle this. Those things, I don't want to bug God. Really? No, God wants you to bug him on every detail and aspect of your life.
I think we have to. I think because life, like that's the thing that I realize is that you can go down a path of believing the enemy's lies enough to where it will almost make you, you can possibly deconstruct. If you are a Christian right now, and if you don't keep your mind and ways, and if you don't guard your heart. If you don't guard your heart, the enemy can lie to you enough. And if you believe enough of those, you can deconstruct from Christianity. Bottom line. That's what you can do.
Now I know why God showed me. This verse came through Dee Dee, but it resonated with me enough that I actually knew I was supposed to share it today.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go with this little bitty section here, okay? It's 2 Corinthians 11. And my subtitles, because I have a Schofield Study Bible, my little subtitles here in the middle, it says, godly jealousy, okay? And it says, starting at verse 1, I hope you will put up with a little of my foolishness, but you are already doing that. I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. I promised you one husband to Christ so that I might present you as a pure virgin to him. This is, I believe, Paul talking to the church of Corinthian. And then warning against false teachers is the next subtitle to this. It says, but I'm afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. For as someone comes to you and preaches a Jesus other than Jesus we preached, or if you receive a different spirit from the one you received, or a different gospel from the one you accepted, you put up with it easily enough. You put up with it easily enough.
Yeah.
But I do not think I am in the least inferior to those super apostles. I may not be a trained speaker, but I do have knowledge. We have made this perfectly clear to you in every way. I'd probably skip the last verse on that part. God's paying attention to everything.
Yeah.
But we can be so easily distracted and deceived.
Yeah.
By our own desires and our own needs and our own
self-desires,
self-efficiency.
everything. Well, that's what I was going to say is everybody, I know I'm a baby Christian, but I don't think anyone in this room can deny that I'm not on fire for God.
No, I agree.
But I was still, I know you guys can tell for the last month or so, I have been on a downward spiral. I've been really questioning some things. I've been really upset and bothered, wondering if God's really active in my life. And I was like, why? You know,
because he wants to grow you.
You know what's crazy
really
is he could have let me go. He could have let me go. He didn't have to send me the sparrow, but he did. He didn't have to reveal to me that was a sparrow. We decided on a whim to go to this room, and I'm sorry for all you guys that are speculating whether, but that's a coincidence. I'm sorry. How many rooms does? I'll tell you where it was at. Great Wolf Lodge in Dallas, Texas. We decided we were going to go there on a Thursday or Friday of the week before, and then we went there the less than 7 days the next week. We set that up, okay? And then there's probably 3,000 rooms. You can Google it in Great Wolf Lodge. Through 3,000 rooms. How many of those rooms do you think had a sparrow's nest in it?
Wait. Do you know that God actually put that in that mother's mind to make that nest, to have those eggs? All this was way before you ever made a decision to do that, and had the babies hatch just enough before you got there that you could watch the mother feed them. And what God was showing me while you were telling that is that mother bird is like God. Okay, and all of us with our chirping mouths, we need that total dependency on God, just as those baby birds who cannot get out of that nest at that particular age has that mother come in and feed them.
And check this out.
Day.
And the mother is like God, because even though the scary humans were sitting right below her nest, the mother bird fed her babies anyway.
I guarantee she kept an eye on you the whole time too.
Oh no, she swooped at us a couple times. She let us know she was there. She was like, like, you get too close to that nest, I'm gonna get you. And I'm like, hey, we're just out here talking. It's fine. But yeah, it's just it's amazing that God didn't let me go, because and it made me realize that no matter what, when you know that Bible verse that says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." But how often do you have to choose that?
That would be Joshua 24:15. Yeah,
you read it, but not too long ago. But that's my question when I hear about that. It's like, okay, you have, as for you and your house, you're going to serve the Lord. That's great. How often do you have to choose that? Do you have to choose that every week? Do you have to choose that once a month?
Minute by minute.
Do you have to choose that every day, or do you have to choose that literally every minute? Especially nowadays, whenever you've got this phone that I'm holding in my hand.
Every minute.
There's so many deceivers, there's so many false prophets, and there's so many vices that Satan has gained a stronghold in, that if there's so many lies that you have to shield yourself from, that you have to guard your heart constantly. That's why I bought this, because you're either going that way down, or you're either going that way up. There is no stalemate. There is no neutral.
Nope.
You're either going towards God or you're going away from him. That's why I bought this, because I felt myself going away from him, and I bought this necklace, and I said, this is a perfect verse, because I've got to guard my heart, because you can fall away from God. You can depart from God, and you can deconstruct from God, and that is what the enemy wants you to do.
No matter what the world tries to tell you, this is either the undeniable truth or it's the biggest falsehood there is.
But
I firmly believe that this is the Word of God, and it is the undeniable truth.
Yeah.
And I am to base my whole life on it. I am to follow what it tells me to do, obey everything that it says, whether it goes against my flesh or not. And that, what you were talking about, also goes with what Paul says about battling your flesh daily. Put on the armor of God, battle your flesh daily through prayer, and bringing your flesh into submission to your spirit.
Yeah. It's just what a weird thing that God showed how powerful he was. And what's funny is I didn't even register with the sparrow until yesterday, and the weekend had already passed. And I'm sorry, but you cannot convince me that was a coincidence, that I woke up and just thought of that verse out in the middle of the night, woke up and thought of that verse, and then remembered the sparrow. And then
that wasn't a coincidence.
So it's just a beautiful thing that God could have just kept letting me go in that downward spiral, and he didn't. I think I felt a weight lifted last week after I talked to you guys. And so I think that was the start of God saying, okay, let's get this back going again. And I'm going to send you a couple, but you're still free will. You could still keep going whatever way you want. You don't have to submit to God's signs and wonders. I genuinely believe that God gives everyone listening to this right now, I believe God gives them all signs and wonders. It's just how connected you are with God to recognize them. Because it's very possible that I could have not recognized that sign from God. Does that make sense? And so it's just how
overlooked it.
Yeah, how connected are you to God to realize these signs and wonders that God wants to send you right now? And you may ask the question, why doesn't God just show himself and reveal himself and make it obvious? And the answer is, I don't know. But I do, you cannot tell me, everyone listen to this, you cannot tell me that what I'm telling you right now is a coincidence. And you need to open your eyes and start realizing that God is standing at your door and knocking, and all you have to do is open the door. So let's get to our guest. What do you think? Everybody ready?
Sure.
Okay. So today we have a young man named Steven Sanchez coming on. He is a former New Age Christian practitioner, basically the Christianity for witchcraft and stuff like that.
The Christianity for witchcraft.
Well, yeah, you would have to listen. I'll have him explain New Age Christianity for you a little bit. It's Christians that believe that you can astral project, practice witchcraft, Reiki healing, stuff like that. So I'll have him explain it to you so you can understand. But it's an
oxymoron.
Yeah, it's a newer version of Christianity, but it's not as new as you think anymore. Because
like
a
Christian witch, kind of like a silent scream.
Mm-hmm.
You mean military intelligence?
No. He's a Christian now, so I'm bringing on a former. Every now and then we bring on someone that was a former one of the people, and we hear their testimony and stuff like that. But no, he's not currently practicing in that. But he has a pretty cool story, and that I thought you guys would like to hear. So
yeah,
cool testimony that I thought you guys might like to hear.
What's his name again?
Steven Sanchez.
Steven Sanchez.
All right, let's get to him, Steven.
Oh,
Steven.
Yes, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good, man. How's it going?
It's going good.
Good deal, man. So do you listen to the show at all?
Yeah. Since a little bit before I reached out to you guys, I had just started listening to you guys. It started off when I started seeing some of your guys' clips that were cut down on like the Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
And then from there is when I ended up finding your guys' Instagram page, and then from there I just kind of got into it more.
Man, thank you for watching. But I'm still just in case somebody's new. I'm gonna describe kind of how it works and introduce everybody, and then we'll get started. So we have Mark back in studio this week. Executive producer Mark, he's here.
Hey, Steven.
We also have my lovely wife Angela.
Hello, Angela.
And then we have my strong, fuerte prince from Latin America, Larry.
Because
Larry
he knows
Barnard.
I have no clue what he just said.
Fuerte means strong in Spanish.
Aye.
He's my fuerte prince. How do you say prince in Spanish? Do you know Spanish, Steven?
I only know about half of it. By the time I was learning to talk, my pops, he's from Mexico, but he was already speaking more English.
We're just gonna call him Don. We're gonna call him Don Larry.
Don, there you go. I know Don is a big thing. Don is like a boss.
Yeah, Don Larry is when Spanish people like when they have a respect for the elderly person, like they call him Don. They put Don before their name, so Don Larry.
Yeah.
And then you hear
I'll say one of the only Spanish words that I can understand.
Don't you dare say a cuss word in Spanish.
Gracias.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
The only one I know is Mas Tequila.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, that's a good one to know, huh?
I don't use that one anymore.
Yeah, we don't use that one anymore, but it's still just in case, whatever.
Reserve. It has an emergency.
Right.
But now it's mas Kool-Aid rojo, por favor.
There you go.
There you go.
Water and sweet tea.
There you go.
Yeah.
Larry has a purple Solo cup today.
I am not confused about my sexuality. I can drink out of anything.
That's so cute. I love it. But anyway, okay. And my name's Zach. I'm the host of the show. I don't know if you know me. I'm the tan, good-looking, nice feet, well-dressed
Liar.
host of the show. So
you know it's a sin to lie.
yeah. Well, okay.
Did you notice I cut my hair so short I look like you now?
Yeah. I'm growing mine out. Thank you. Look, I don't have a bald spot whenever you grow it out.
For at least 2 weeks, your hair is longer than mine.
Yeah. So yeah, I know you're a Christian now, but just we don't debate here. So, and I'm sure you agree with the same thing that we do. But we're excited to hear your testimony, man. And then at the end of the show, what we do, we go around the room and everybody gets to say their final greeting. And since you're our guest, you're going to get to say the last thing. Sound good?
Sounds good, boss. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right, brother. So you, let's get this straight. You were a former New Age guy. You practiced New Age Christianity and stuff like that?
I wouldn't say I practiced it so much. I didn't get into it to where I was like meditating daily or, practicing breathing techniques. It was more of I was very curious. I went through, after I went through my rebellious teenage stage, I got really curious. It was considered an accidental overdose. I was on drugs pretty heavy at the time, but I wasn't trying to be suicidal with it at all. So that's why they considered it an accident.
Oh, okay.
After that happened to me back in 2017. I got addicted to Xanax, and I thought it wasn't as strong as they were, and I took too much one night, and kind of got me.
Oh, so you almost died? You took too much drugs and you almost died?
The doctors told my family that if I didn't get there within, I believe, 4 minutes, I would have been dead.
Jeez, man, wow. How many bars did you have?
I had took over that day. I had took over 7 of the green rectangle bars.
Wow. I know a little about the Xanax.
And that was on top of also smoking marijuana, drinking alcohol.
Wow.
It was a big mix of a day. Yeah, so it was everything all together. Kind of just was a force of reckoning, I guess.
Yeah, you know,
I've heard the name. I know how to spell the name. I kind of have an idea what it is, but you popped right up there, dude. I mean, you're like, hey, how many bars did you have,
Larry?
I mean,
Larry, listen, I don't think you understand how much of an old road dog me and Mark are, buddy.
Right, buddy.
I can feel his energy, dude. We're cut from the same cloth, bub. You don't understand.
Yeah, I grew up pretty strong, pretty fast.
Right.
So, and that was a part of my what's the word? My naiveness to it, because when I was younger, getting out of high school, I was I did the rave scene, and ecstasy was a big thing. I wasn't ever too addicted to it, but I had tried it, and to me that was way worse and way stronger. So in my mind, I was like, if I could do that and be okay, this is nothing.
Okay, wait a minute.
And
so you mentioned high school, and you mentioned ecstasy. So that means that you have graduated somewhere between the
late
90s and the 10s, right?
Late 80s.
Yeah, I graduated
2009. 79?
2009.
No, 2009.
2009. So you're a youngin'.
I'm 32 right now. I turned 33 in December.
Yeah.
Click your pin.
Okay, yeah,
he is young, because I remember, Steve, there used to be this place in Oklahoma City, and it didn't stay open for long, being in the Bible Belt, but it was called Nate's. And it was on 63rd Street, and they open up at 11 o'clock at night and stay open till like 6 a.m. in the morning. And it was when ecstasy was first making its huge inflow into the culture, and that's what it was. Everybody's walking around drinking water, and everybody was rolling.
Yeah, nobody's drinking alcohol. Everybody's drinking water.
Right.
I always I was always big on it, like experimenting with drugs and stuff like that. But I had heard enough horror stories about any hallucinogens, and then I heard a horror story about a guy taking too much ecstasy, and it blew like a quarter-size hole in his brain. And so I never never tried.
I've heard stories as well like that. So I feel like I was always considered lucky when I went through that phase. And I didn't do it too heavily. It was more of like an experimental social type thing with friends.
Right.
It wasn't so much as like an addiction. I wasn't like craving it every day or looking forward to every day. It was more like
just having
twice
fun
a month, which is a lot to do, but it was more of like a 2-3 times a month type thing.
So
spread out over weekends. So.
Do me a favor. We were talking about this before we got you on the phone, but I had brought up the New Age Christianity thing, and Larry said, "What?" And I realized that we had never had anybody on that kind of dabbled in that stuff before. Can you explain what New Age Christianity is?
Yeah, it's a form of, I don't even know if they even consider it a form of Christianity. From what the people I've talked to about it, that when I was curious into it, it was more being spirituality. And it has a lot at the time I didn't realize, but it has a lot of ties into Hinduism. Majority of the basis of those practices and what people do in the New Age, it does tie back to Hinduism. And the whole, centering your chakras and opening your third eye, those all have strong relations into the religion of Hinduism as itself. And it's just pretty much, you believe you're your own God. You are God. You're created in God's image, but you also are God in a way. And there's different dimensions, and the more you're enlightened spiritually, you'll move upper through these dimensions, and the upper through the dimensions that you go, the more knowledge you'll gain about the truth of the world. And eventually, when you get to the top one, you know everything that God knows, apparently. And That's pretty much as far as what I was told, the basis of the outline of the New Age.
That sounds pretty good. I mean, they're trying to tie that into the Christian.
Sounds like every video game out there.
Yeah, right.
Dang video games.
I hear myself saying it sounds
doesn't it? I mean, seriously?
Leveling up.
Yeah, level up. You complete that level, you go to the next one, you get rewarded, and in the end, you're the god of the game. All right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a little
if
G.
you break it down, yeah.
Yeah, that's a little G.
I would say exactly.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, for me, it was when I was in high school, when I was around a sophomore year in high school, I was still fairly innocent. I wasn't, into anything of that level yet. And my sister was very into church strongly at the time. She was going, 3 times a week, and studying every day. And she kept pulling me and wanted me to go with her. And I remember I caught this 4-week, this 4-week, I don't even know, event, I guess you would call it, where every Wednesday was this big massive sermon on the book of Revelations, and where they cover it from front to back. And that's what really kind of sparked my interest into Christianity, and it really made me feel like there was a higher God and a higher power. But being a kid, and also my friends at the time, none of my friends were going to church or into it. So when I wasn't around my sister, it wasn't like I had any influence at all. So it was very easy to kind of forget about it and kind of get more into what the group was going with, I guess you could say, especially being young and influential, or influenceable, sorry. So yeah, I shortly kind of just pulled away from Christianity altogether. I kind of chalked it up as I couldn't say for sure if it was true, so I was gonna not believe it. Is pretty much where I was standing at the time, and I stood on that for. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's how kind of the deconstruction movement views it. If you haven't noticed that, is they believe, well, if I can't prove it, if God isn't big enough to prove to me that He exists without a shadow of doubt, reasonable evidence, then I would rather just stay on the unbelief side than the belief side.
That's a thought process that will take you the wrong direction. Completely.
It would be easy to do. I like I said, I mean, even us, we could go, like we talked about before Steven got on the show, we could go down that path very easily. All we'd have to do is believe a few lies. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's all we'd have to do.
True.
The enemy's constantly throwing lies at you. You just have to either believe them or not. And if you believe them, you can easily go down that path.
If God has to prove Himself to me for me to believe in Him, then I'm not looking at what He's already shown me.
Yeah.
I have faith.
That's very true.
Because it's faith is believing in what I can't see. And I can't see God, but I can feel the effects of God.
Exactly.
I have a testimony that lives in my house. It's my wife, right over there doing her Bible study for a class on Sunday right now.
Yeah.
Every time I look up and she's in her Bible,
she moved because she don't want to be on camera,
and not in her the bottle of alcohol that she used to be in. Every time I see that is a reminder that I can see and feel the effects of God.
Yeah.
Not only in my life, but in my wife's life, which also is in my marriage.
It's easy to forget when it's you though, huh? Like I was thinking just now, I told you guys that story about how God revealed to me over the weekend. Well, he has done that before. And it's easy to forget those moments whenever it's shadowed by your own personal desires or your doubts or your lies. Like, you can believe whatever you want to believe.
Oh, yeah. Satan's sitting over there going, hey, just listen to me. Hey.
Yeah. I'd imagine he sounds just like that too, yeah.
Hey.
Oh, yeah. No, I've always heard that. I always heard the devil's greatest trick was making people believe he didn't exist.
Exactly. Right. Oh, big time. I mean, I had an argument with a guy in the comment section the other day on just that right there. Because I'm like, that's the biggest lie.
Those are the easiest targets, man. Those are the easiest targets for him.
That's the biggest defense Satan has is I'm not real.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, it's Mark. I'm kind of curious, man. from the way he worked in my life, Satan, before God brought me back around, it was all degrees. You know, believe this, go this direction. And then one day I woke up and I was like, how the heck did I get here? Doing things that I never thought I'd do, hanging around with people I never thought I'd hung around with, and it'd become normal for me. Can you identify with that and talk a little bit about how that deviation happened for you? Because I'm interested about that, because it sounds like you were raised Christian.
Yeah.
And what happened, and then how did God steer you out of that?
It all started towards the end of high school. Growing up, I didn't know who I was or who I wanted to be in life, and it was just, I was very a curious kid, and curiosity will always catch the cat.
Right.
And I kind of ran with that for a long time, and it was, honestly, I'm just going to be honest, it was the group of people that I was hanging out with in that time in high school. They were a group of friends, and at the time, friends, I don't talk to any of them, haven't talked to a lot of them in so long. But at the time, they were close friends, and they were all, the furthest from believing in any type of religion at all. It was all, we're going to live for the moment, and we're going to, enjoy life for what it is, because you never know when we're going to die type mentality. Mm-hmm. And that was very easy to run with, because it was, being a 16, 17-year-old kid and looking at the truth of what the Bible says is a lot harder to swallow than wanting to just live for the moment. Sure. And me being a lazy kid and not thinking about the importance of life and how later I am going to have a family of my own and all those other things, you're not thinking about it at the time. So it was very easy just to run with what I wanted to do in that moment. And you're also bonding with your friends and over these, substances, whether it's drinking or drugs or partying or even just hanging out, going to, dinner, but doing things that you're not supposed to be doing beforehand, or, it's almost a sense of fun doing something you're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that becomes a very slippery slope real quick.
Right,
and,
right.
It
it's like you're a tourist just at
yes.
first. I'm just sticking my
yes.
toe over here in the danger zone.
Yep.
And then
yes.
And then I don't know about you, but you go from a tourist to being a denizen or a citizen of this mad realm.
I was the mayor, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
I ran that place for a little bit.
I remember walking in my first rave thinking exactly what you just said. Like, I felt so foreign to the environment. And within like 3 months later, it was no longer foreign. It was normal.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not a good environment. I don't know if you guys ever been to a rave.
Yes.
It's not a good environment to be in, especially as a young kid, and back then when I was first going, they were all ages. You didn't need an ID to get in. So I would see kids younger than me in junior high running around on it.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy. And it wasn't until there's a big rave called Electric Daisy Carnival and or Electric something EDC, and it used to be in LA, and the last year they had it in LA was in 2009. And a lot of people jumped the gates or underage, and a lot of people overdosed, and a 15-year-old girl died. And since then, they've been banned from LA, and they moved to Vegas. And that's when they put it 18 and over, and they cracked down a lot stricter with security. I'm sure people get away with a lot now and then. I didn't really go to them too much. Around 2009, 2010 was like the last time I went to one, so I don't really know how it is now. I've heard crazy stories, but then I also heard that they're very strict now as well, so I don't know.
Yeah, they're trying to be more healthy. So, okay, so yeah. Take me to where you almost died. So your drug use and your fun and all that other stuff, it escalated to the point where you almost overdosed, correct? So, and I'm sure that story is the significant part of your story to where all this started to turn. Take me to that moment where you almost died, and what was so significant about that moment?
It happened on a regular, I believe it was like a Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, and me and my wife at the time, we were trying to get back together after a separation, and my run with Xanax was very short. I had never tried it beforehand in my life when in my younger days ever. I've heard of it, but I always thought of it like a medication you get prescribed. That's something you can find on the street. And one day I was, hanging out with my friend in the front, and we were smoking some weed, and he had one on him, and he was like, "Hey, do you want half?" Tried half, and from there, it was a matter of 2 to 3 months I overdosed. So it wasn't like I had this very long run with it to where it was, these crazy ups and downs. It just took over me that quick. And Xanax is one of those drugs where it almost blinds you to what you're doing. Like after I overdosed that day, I had sat down with my family, and my sister showed me voicemails that I sent her, calling her at like 3 a.m, begging for money for drugs, and I don't have no recollection of this at all.
Right.
Wow.
And other things as well, like other things from friends, and I'm talking about like people that you would never, the last person you would ever ask for $1, you're calling them at 4 a.m. asking for $20.
Right.
And it's like, and you don't have no recollection of this. It happened so fast. And what I'm trying to explain is as bad as I'm going through this and looking at everybody, in my mind, I'm in complete control. I'm doing totally fine. It's not affecting me in any kind of bad way. I'm just having fun. And that last day was me just having too much fun. And the last thing I remember was, thank God up in heaven, my wife woke me up in the morning. And I'm like, I don't really remember anything. It was very groggy and blurry, and I can really hear her too good. And I remember her saying something of her wanting to leave my son with me for the day to watch him. And I tell her yes. Now I believe that I never wake up after this. I go back to sleep in an overdose. So he would have been in the house with me that day. And she had a feeling that I was just out of it too much. So she ended up taking him to my mom's, thank God. And she gets out of work. I never wake up from that point. She gets out of work. She goes to her mom's to pick up something for dinner, and her mom begs her to stay for dinner. Now, this is where I could have died. Because remember, I told you the doctors told my family that I had 4 minutes to get there.
4 minutes,
with 10 minutes. So her mom is begging her to stay for dinner. She would have stayed for dinner. I wouldn't have died. By the time she got back to the house, I would have been dead.
Wow.
And she would have found me like that. And so luckily, she ended up leaving the kids at my mom's. She came to drop the food off at the house, and that's when she found me and called 911.
Wow.
And my mom pulls up at the house with my dad. They said they see me come out. They already had me in a body bag because they didn't think I was going to make it.
Wow.
And I got to the hospital, and I guess they gave me some stuff to wake me up. And again, I have no recollection of this at all whatsoever. And I jump up. I had ripped my IV out of my hands, and I got severe nerve damage for like the next 3 years in my hand. I couldn't feel my ring finger and my pinky on my right hand. Every time they said I would get rehooked up to everything and kind of calm down, I would snap out again. And I wanted to leave. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go. And thank God finally he was a night doctor. I don't even know his name. I know his last name was Gonzalez. And he decided to sedate me like to a point where I was going to be out for a few days. And I guess I was out for about 4.5 days. And they said that I detoxed in that time, but also being sedated. So I kind of got lucky. I didn't have to deal with the harsh ugliness of coming down. And when I woke up, I was kind of back to normal. And I myself I woke up in the hospital, and I have the tube down my throat so I can't talk, and my legs and my hands are strapped down to the bed like I'm like a crazy person. And I can barely wiggle my toes, and I'm trying to tap the footboard with my toes, and this nurse comes in, and she seems really happy to see me awake. She comes in with the doctor, and they pull the tube out, which is one of the worst feelings I could ever explain in my life. It was just like it felt like having like a water balloon pulled out of your chest.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was a very ugly experience, and it's very fast, and it doesn't hurt too much afterwards. But that first initial pull out is pretty rough, and it feels good to be able to breathe air again. And I right away thought I was in a car accident. I didn't even remember that I got home and laid down and all that stuff. I thought I had wrecked my car leaving my friend's house that night coming home.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you overdosed. And I to me, it's embarrassing now, but at the time in my mind, I was so in control of myself. I didn't believe I overdosed. I told them, no way, that's a lie. I'm not a drug addict. That was my exact response to them. There's no way I could have overdosed. I'm not a drug addict. And the nurse laughs at me, and she's like, "No, you overdosed." And then she goes on to read the list of substances that I tested positive. And I had to sit there and eat that humility and
whoops,
and in that moment humbled me to a point that I've never felt embarrassed in my life. Like, I've been picked on in school. I've tripped and spilled my lunch in front of everybody. You have I pooped my pants as a kid at Castle Park. I've had embarrassing moments, but that right there was like to the core. It's like,
it hit you. The truth hit you. The truth hit you because, like, we all want to do the right thing. We all know drugs are bad. We all don't want to be drug addicts, and nobody takes drugs for any amount of time. And then in the first week, you go, "Oh, I may be hooked on this." No, if you want to keep doing it, you have to lie to yourself.
I've got a life goal. I want to be a drug addict.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to lie to yourself. And I think the testimony that so far that we've heard from Stephen that would like people, maybe kids or people that have not experienced drugs that are thinking about it. I think the main thing that I've heard so far is from Stephen is just how fast it can grab a hold of you. You can go from being 100% sober to almost being dead in a matter of 2 months. That's scary.
Right.
Like that's how fast drugs can take you. You can go from
very quick,
not at all, doing nothing to almost dead within 2 months. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm amazed, even though, I guess I'm the lightweight here in the room. I smoked.
It came to drinking.
Okay, yeah, not when it came to drinking. You're right. But I mean, in my day, it was just marijuana and a couple of pop and pills here and there. But the biggest thing we ever did was like Quaaludes.
Yeah, roars and lemons.
So I don't really know what. Help me out here, if you wouldn't mind. Xanax is like a downer, right?
It is a benzodiazepine. It is.
That right there is the main thing in it, and that is the most dangerous drug anybody can get on. It's anything with benzos in it. Besides an opiate.
Benzodiazepines have a long-lasting withdrawal effect, almost similar to alcohol. You know how when people get addicted to alcohol, you can't just withdraw from alcohol without like almost you have to
and stuff.
Unless God delivers you.
Yeah. Right. But benzodiazepines is the same way. Like pain pills, for example, that's called a narcotic analgesic. Those are very safe withdrawals, although they are painful and they're very excruciating. They stink, and your brain's trying to regulate and reach homeostasis. It's very uncomfortable and it sucks, but it's still not considered a lethal withdrawal from that. But benzodiazepines is. Okay. Xanax is that. Like Valium as well. I'm sure you heard of Valium.
Why do they entice?
Because they make you feel all wobbly, man.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this right now. Out of every drug that I've ever done in my life, the best high I've ever experienced was a Xanax.
Really?
And I believe that's why they're so addicting. It's just, I've explained it.
They're a lot like the Quaaludes of your day, Larry.
I've never tried. I've never experienced them, but I can honestly say that's why I like that high over anything else I've ever tried at the time.
It is preference too. Like me, I'm an upper guy.
Yeah, it is also a preference. I've never liked to be awake and stuff like that.
No, still am. I just don't do it. No, I'm kidding. Still am currently an upper guy. I just don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're not reverting back to our fleshly desire.
I promise I'll never do meth again. I assure you.
I know the truth about myself. I am what I have is a daily reprieve based upon my spiritual condition.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, the downer thing never really connected with me, and I kind of started to observe different people, and some people are like, man, they like Steven, he really likes Xanax. Never really appealed to me, but some people, everybody has a different preference based off their personality and stuff.
Drug of choice, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
All right, I understand. I mean, I was more of a downer type person, and I know that my wife was a more upper type person.
Yeah. So, Stephen, I think I remember in your message, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you dabbled you started dabbling in New Age and stuff like that. And I think you even mentioned at some point you saw some demons and stuff like that, and it caused you to change back to Christ. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, bring us into your story there.
Okay, so right after this overdose happening around the summer of 17. So after this, me and my wife at the time, obviously we have a big separation. You know, she's not going to put up with the way I was living my life, and I stuff ever again. I got completely off of it, never went back to it another day. So I can, happily say that. But it was also this. I had this kind of arrogant attitude to it, like almost I didn't do nothing wrong. I'm okay. So I think that rubbed a lot of my family wrong at the time, and I kind of got pushed away into isolation almost. And I lost my wife, and I was only seeing my kids a couple of days a week. And my mom and dad were really disappointed in me. They didn't, they weren't like throwing me out, but they were definitely disappointed. You can feel the disappointment. And there was just embarrassment with my family and my other friends. And I had friends that didn't want to talk to me no more because of it. So it was just a really dark period. And honestly, the internet is it's a very dangerous place when you're alone like that and you're on there for a long time. And that's really what happened to me. I'm scrolling on YouTube and I started coming across these videos, and these videos, at the time sparked my interest because they're talking about these ancient civilizations that date back, hundreds of thousands of years, and they hold these secrets to the truth of the world and all this crazy stuff. And it sounds really cool the way they edit these videos and, the music they have and the clips and the cut, and they use these, probably pictures from different references, but it looked cool. So they put them in their videos, and, it could really intrigue people, and it did to me. And, from there, I started watching other videos and other podcasts that were like all about being spiritual and trying to connect to the world, and how there's, natural things in the world such as ayahuasca or mushrooms that can help you connect to these spiritual things. And I started getting pretty curious, and I was nervous because I didn't want to do drugs, and I knew mushrooms fell under that category. And I started trying to balance out an excuse of how it would be okay if I'm using it in a spiritual way. And so me and my buddy, we were talking about it one day, and we kind of talked ourselves into trying it together. Like, okay, we're both, you'll do it, I'll do it type dumb thing. So we go to a spot, we find them, and we buy them from this little shop. And we come back to his house, and we take half and half. I don't know exactly what the amount was. The guy just said, if you take half, you'll feel it. Like you'll experience something. So we get back, and I take the half, and they also tell us when you do this, you're supposed to do it with a person you trust or people you trust. Don't do it on your own. And as we get back to his house and something happens, he immediately has to leave to some other part of the house where he's going to be gone for a while. And I'm in his room, and I'm not feeling anything yet. And then you can slowly feel it kind of come on, and it's not like any other drug I've taken. It's not where you get like a sick feeling or ugly feeling. You just kind of feel it, like your body shifts a little bit as far as like your natural feeling. And I lay down, try to put on some calming music, and I'm staring up at a ceiling. He has a white ceiling, and after a while, you guys would remember, I'm going into this trying to ask questions to these, ancient civilizations that you could connect with about what the truth of the world is. This is what I'm thinking in my head trying to go into this. And
right.
Not understanding, what I'm about to experience. And so I started seeing these black lines about 2 inches wide, and they stretch across the length of the ceiling. And they go in all different directions, and it almost looks like a bunch of different shapes kind of blending in and out of each other. And as the more I stare at it, in the shapes, they start forming faces. Like you can definitely see like eyes, a nose, a mouth. And it's not a typical like a human face. It's almost like it almost resembles like kind of like Aztec looking masks, but not exactly. That's
wow.
The best kind of closest example of a reference if I can kind of explain it to is something along like a Mayan mask or an Aztec mask. Not exactly to the T, but something similar to that. And it was kind of going in and out of each other. And I'm laying on the bed, and I'm communicating with these things, and which do I now know are demons. At the time, I don't know. I'm thinking they're these ancient spirits of the past, and I'm not talking to them physically. I'm talking to them to my mind. Tell like what I'm thinking they can hear, and what they're saying I can hear back in my head. So I'm asking them in my mind, like, what are you? What's the truth? Like, what's the history of the world? Trying to ask these questions, and they're not answering me. They're just like laughing at me. I can hear them laughing at me, like almost like in a smug way, like a teasing way. And I'm trying to be like, trying to ask these questions in my mind. And they ask me, no, I'm sorry. In my mind, I was asking them, what are they? And they answer back, they answer in my mind, I can hear it clear, we're God.
Wow.
And right when I heard that in my mind, like I just got the chills right now, even just bringing it up. My complete body kind of froze and my heart sank. And I got real scared real fast.
Because you knew they weren't God?
Because I knew they weren't God. It's because no matter everything I did in my life, and even though my faith wasn't where it should have been at that time, I knew from how I was raised and the truth inside of me that there is only one God. There's not multiple gods that run. There's only one God that created everything.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm starting to think this back to them in my mind, like, you're not God. I know God. And they almost make like an oh crap kind of thing. Like, you know him? Are you sure you know him? You don't know him. Are you sure you know him? You don't know him. And it's kind of going over and over. Like, you don't. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I know him. And so I close my eyes and I'm crying at this point. I close my eyes and I start praying, and I'm praying to God. And I'm like, I'm sorry for doing this. I rebuke this. I didn't know, I'm sorry. And in a matter of a snap of a finger, my high is completely gone. This is supposed to last like 6 hours. I was only maybe about an hour or two in, and it completely goes away. And I sit up on the bed and I'm looking up at the ceiling like scared because I don't want to see it no more. And it's gone. And I'm like, what the heck was that? Like, so now I'm sitting there and I'm freaking out. And my friend walks back in the room and I'm trying to explain to him what I just experienced. And he's like, dude, you sound crazy. Like, you don't, there's no way. Like, you were just high. You're just scared. Like, and I'm like, no, like, you don't understand. Like, I literally communicated with something that wasn't from this world. The way we live and what we see, it wasn't from here. It was, but not from the world we live in, us. It was from a spirit, some other, I don't even want to know where it came from type place. It was a ugly feeling. And about a week goes by. And again, I told you, I'm a very curious person. So after about 3-4 days, the cat gets the best of me. And I started wanting to, was that real or was I just high? Was it real or was it just high?
You went back.
And so I went back one more time. I didn't take as much. I took a pee. I took about a quarter of what I took. And it hit me harder than it ever hit in my life. And I'm sitting in the front seat of my friend's car, and he's trying to calm me down, and I'm crying, and I'm staring off through the windshield, and I can see the same type of shapes, but they're bigger now, and they're like, you wanted this. This is what it is, and they show me the evilness. They show me, like, I'm not seeing people like burning, but they're telling me what they're doing to people, how they're convincing these people that this is okay. They're making people think that this is fun. People are gonna get high on this, and they're gonna go into this world, and they're gonna play with those things, thinking that it's cool. And the whole time they have this other ulterior motive that's just pulling you away. Like, it's those same entities are the same type of demons that attack people all day long, and people walk through their life and think that they just chalked it up as a bad day. Like, oh, today was just a bad day. Like, no, you're in a spiritual warfare and you're getting attacked by demonic entities all day long. You need to pray. You need to humble yourself and find Jesus. Right. In that moment, I'm praying, and I feel in the back of my mind, I feel like God's telling me, like, you asked for this. Now you're going to wait it out. You're safe and I'm here with you, but you asked. And so I had to wait it out. I waited 5 hours in that car, crying I had no more tears left. And after that, I went inside, I got on my knees and I prayed to God, and I made a vow to him that I will never, ever divulge from his past that he put me on. And I will never, ever be curious against his word or his commands in my life ever again. And I've been following that till that day, from that day till now. And I'm so happy. I regret having that experience, but I'm happy I did, because I feel like that finally closed any curiosity in my life. When you hear people talk about aliens and you hear people talk about all these angels, okay, yeah, that's all fine and dandy. But people tend to forget that the angels that fell with Lucifer from heaven, those are the angels that came. Those are the demons that turned in. Those are the angels that turned the demon here on earth.
Wow.
And they had offsprings of people here that created other. That's why you people hear stories about giants. Yeah, they might have existed, but they weren't people of God. They were created from the Nephilim. They were created from fallen angels. There's been evil that owns this world since the beginning of time. So all these ancient civilizations that people talk about, that's all ran by demonic presence. They're all ran by demonic beliefs. None of them go back to the belief of God or the belief of Jesus. Even look at the way they're depicted. They're depicted the way demons are described in the Bible. You know, the way they're etched out on stone back in the day is the way we read about them in the book of Revelation.
So you think nothing, so there are Christians out there that use hallucinogens or narcotics of some sort in an attempt to connect with God a little closer. Are you against that?
100%.
Okay.
100%. There's absolutely no substance. There's no mind-altering substance that you need to get closer to God. Amen. All you need to do is read your Bible, pray, and stay in your face. Walk by Jesus' word as much as you can, which is very hard because we're all men and we all sin every day. Yeah. Not one of us is going to go to sleep tonight without committing a sin.
Yeah.
And what we can do is stay on that path, though. You don't, and that's what those things are laughing at me as. Is those are the people we're getting the Christians that think it's cool. They think it's cool, like, oh no, I'm connecting with God, I'm connecting with these spirits. No, you're not. You're playing with demons.
Yeah. Hey, so
those things don't have none of your best interests in hand. I promise you, those things work from another spiritual world, and they do not. If they're not of God and Jesus, they're not for us.
I don't want to offend you or anything, but I got to ask this question. You've got kind of like a hoarse voice. Is that from the trach tube that they had to pull out that day?
I believe so. My voice was never as raspy as it was before that. And so, yeah, I do believe I kind of stayed with some type of effect from it.
Yeah.
Because even that first week or two afterwards, I couldn't really talk right. It was very off. And this is how it kind of stays now all the time.
Yeah. I didn't want to offend you, but I was just, I don't know why I was having that.
No, not at all.
Wasn't that Jacob in the Bible where God, where they wrestled, but then he touched his hip and he had that limp as a remembrance of God? Wasn't that Jacob?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I was just thinking, I was having that kind of like thought in my head that's kind of like your limp from.
I kept thinking he sure sounds a lot like George Lopez.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it kind of does.
But yeah, I was just thinking that's your limp, that's your Jacob's limp from God, that kind of reminder of that time that you wrestled with him. You know, whenever God was always calling you, but you were doing your own thing and you were chasing him, but you were chasing him the wrong way, and you went into some dangerous areas. But now you have a wonderful testimony of it. So you think the people that are using that in the New Age Christians, you think they're more than likely communicating with demons?
Yeah, they're 100% communicating with demons. There's even it all goes through all those psychological drugs. They all go to the same place. I myself, I've never experienced any other hallucinogen besides mushrooms, but I've watched a lot of, even before I got into mushrooms, I watched a lot of videos on people that experienced DMT, ayahuasca, peyote, mushrooms, even acid to a point, and they all have similar experiences with these similar identities. They all entities. Sorry, they all you can watch 2 different videos over 5 years of a different time span, and they'll explain the entities almost looking exactly the same.
Yeah,
and it's you're not gonna be able to. It's just. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you can, go take this drug and get closer to God.
Yeah,
you drink this liquid, you'll experience heaven for a day. Like, it doesn't say any of that.
I'm glad you brought that one part up too. Was said whenever you were watching these entities on that second time, that you noticed that they were tormenting people day and night. They were messing with people's lives. But the people didn't really realize that they were there, and that you had you have a bad day and you think that you just had a bad day, but you said there's spiritual influence behind that. And we talked about that before we called you, that sometimes Satan lulls you to sleep so you're not on guard.
I literally read that verse and he's confirming it.
Yeah, God's prepping us for today. And he said it perfectly. Stephen said it perfectly just now, that you're in a spiritual war, that you don't choose to follow God every month. You don't choose to follow God every week or every hour. You choose to follow God every second. You have to.
Second.
Yep. Every second.
So, okay.
As best as you can.
Man, I think your testimony is wonderful, brother, and I'm so glad you did that. We're going to go ahead and go around the room and do the rounds now real quick, okay?
Sounds good, boss.
Okay, Mark?
I don't know. It was fascinating listening to you, Stephen. I identified with so much of what you're saying. You know, it's all fun and games, and until it's not. And it's kind of the way I look at the way the devil moves is you don't realize you're in the cage while the velvet's going around the bars, and, that's kind of the experience of my life as I was a tourist, I was just going over here and doing these things. But, when I ran down all those paths, hundreds of LSD trips and mushrooms and all of that stuff. And I didn't get enlightened. I just got dragged down to darker, more powerlessness, till, like I said, one day I woke up and was like, man, how'd I end up like this? I do not have the love or presence. That little part of me that God put in me when he created me it abhors the life that I'm living, and it knows the right way. And so that was, I guess some people call that hitting rock bottom. That was saying, okay, I'm done. I surrender, because I really believe that's what we were created to do. God, that's what this whole thing on earth is a process of our surrender, of God giving us the power and autonomy to make these choices on our own. And then us making those choices, realizing, oh, this is a catastrophe. And I want to do the will of my Father because he knows best, and have that relationship with him. I'm just glad you came to that realization, and anybody out there realizing, one thing that really struck out to me as we do these podcasts, because I really was suffering with, man, we're talking to pagans, we're talking to just outright people who are, it seemed, the Bible, the Old Testament talks about how all these people, you got to flush them away and all of that. But God told me today, man, as I was coming up here, he's going, no, these are all my children. And that's one thing that seems almost recurrent through everybody we talk to that's pagan or atheist. They all started out as Christians. At one point they were Christian, almost all of them. And God was saying, these are my children. We need to bring them back home.
Or they were them, yeah.
I'm calling them back home. They may not realize it. But that's what I'm doing. And, man, I'm just glad that you made it back in. I know that heaven celebrated. I know that heaven celebrated when each one of us came back. And anyway, that's all I got.
Angela? No? Okay. Larry? Finish your drink. Hurry. Go.
I know. I tried a quick drink so that I would have moisture for talking. First off, I want to say thanks. I mean, that your story is inspiring because it embraces so much. With what we were talking about just before you came on, the falsehoods that are all out there and those little misconceptions that Satan tries to influence us with to mislead us in the smallest degree. And we end up a long way away from where we need to be.
Yeah.
But through his grace and through his mercy, he's that father in the story of the prodigal son that is standing at the end of his driveway waiting on you to come back.
Right.
It's always. Every one of us in this room have taken a walk away from the Lord and made it back to him.
Amen.
And that's why we're here. I read a verse, and this one is going to mirror the one I pretty much read earlier, and it's in 2 Corinthians 11. And this, I'm going to read 13 and 14. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising, then, if his servants masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will be what their actions deserve. That's pretty straight up, isn't it? That was from verse 13 through 15. And
yeah, that's pretty on.
It's exactly what all these false religions actually are doing. And it's Satan's job to deceive us through the many, many, many places and ways that we have. Some of them we've actually created. I mean, Xanax is a man-made pill, right?
Yeah.
It's not a natural substance. Mine was more natural through the marijuana stuff.
Yeah, well, and could Xanax be just another way to trap you into the cult of humanism and all of that? Here's a pill to treat your demonic oppression of strain, stress, depression.
Yeah.
You're being oppressed demonically.
Because there's no way we can get to the root, right? We have to have a drug. We can't get to the root of the problem and fix that. We need a drug to mask everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes back to pharmakeia.
Root word for witchcraft. Yeah. Pharmacy.
It goes all the way back.
Yep.
And the biggest thing as a believer in Christ is to share your testimony. God gave you a testimony. It is there to reach people. Each and every one of us have people that need to hear our story, that is influenced by what we've gone through because it mirrors what they've gone through. And I'm a firm believer that we walk in disobedience when we do not share our testimony with others.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So I really, really, really thank you for coming on and sharing your testimony with us. And don't give up on it. Be vocal about it.
Yep.
Be bold about it. Be empowered by it.
Yep. Are you done, by the way? Yeah, because I guarantee this is going to change someone's life. I'm going to go ahead and go into mine. First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. Now, my closing statement isn't going to be about you directly this time, but it's about something that the Holy Spirit's putting on my heart right now that your testimony is bringing out in me. But here's what I want to say. I've been seeing a lot lately in these unbelievers and these deconstructed Christians' lives, and in their comment sections and stuff. A lot of people, and especially in the doctrine of once saved, always saved, is the only way to reconcile the fact that these people have deconstructed from Christianity is for them to say, you never were a Christian. And I was talking privately to one of a big name deconstruction person, and he said, that's really hurtful to hear that. That I know they're saying that, and I defend myself and stuff like that, but that really hurts me to say that because I was a Christian. I was a Christian probably just as much as you were. I prayed every single day. I wrote my Bible. I read my Bible every single day. I cried out to God. I prayed to him. I did everything. And I just didn't get what I thought I was, eventually I came to this road where I had to start asking all these questions, and I eventually deconstructed. And I was like, man, that does have to be hurtful. And I wrote this on here because God showed me over the story of the sparrow that I shared with you guys at the beginning of the show and everything. I believe God let me get down to that little wire right there to show me that I could be one of them. And so I could identify with them, because in order for
praise the Lord,
in order for us to go into this ministry, I've got to see what they're saying is true. And I'm telling you, these deconstructed Christians that are saying that they were once a Christian, they were, but they're not anymore. And you can be a Christian and then not be one eventually. And he took me to that very fine line to show that we all have to guard our heart all the time, or you could be like them. You could be one of them as well. And I love these people. These people are real people that made a choice based off of, I don't want to say this on here, but I feel like I have to. It's because, the only reason why I was going down that road is from my own evil desires. That's it. Like, it wasn't from an honest or an honest standpoint. Like, you're always going to have two different thoughts in your head. You just have to believe one. Like, there is always two different thoughts, but you're going to have to decide which one that you're going to believe. Are you going to believe God, or are you going to believe Satan? If it is true, if what we believe is true, there is absolutely someone, a spiritual being that is opposing you. And he wants to see you die, and he wants to see you destroyed, and he wants to see you go to hell. That's what he wants you to do. And he's going, and we have to agree probably that Satan's far more intelligent than what we are, right? Wouldn't you say so? Like he's way better at this. Like he was with God. He was with God at one point. Like he was there.
He studies us.
Yeah.
We don't study him.
He knows that Bible far more than you do. And you have to understand that I know you've got all these questions, and I know you're trying to find all the answers about why God this, why God that. I have those questions too. Trust me, I know. But you have to understand that there is a cunning enemy that wants to see you dead. And you have to understand that if you have deconstructed, it's because you've believed some of the things that he's said.
Yeah. And conversely, you have a loving Father who's standing at the gate pining for you.
Yeah.
Pining for you.
And that sign that he sent me showed me that he could have let me go and didn't. And he's doing the same for you too. The reason why you're still here and you're still alive is because he wants more and more opportunities with you to turn you back around, turn you back to him. And you still do. For every breath that you take, it's another opportunity. But you have to understand that I can give you a simple answer to your why this God, why that God, and it's because you have an enemy that's trying to convince you that God's this bad person that's going to send you to this burning place. And it's just, it's not the truth. And the reason why I can answer that question is because I was right there. I was right there as well. And I know why now. I've got my answer. So
the Lord God Jehovah is the creator of all things. Satan wants to be a God. He is not a God. He is a creation. I want to worship the creator, not a creation of.
Yep. I agree. Okay, so that was the end of mine, end of my statement. So, Stephen, the floor is yours.
Okay, first off, I just want to say thank you guys all for inviting me on here. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come in and share my story and my testimony with you guys. Just to touch on real quick, one of the last things you were talking about right now. A lot of people, I feel like in my experience talking with people, they tend to question things because of how bad things seem to be. And, they ask about, how, if there's a God, how can he let so many kids die and these bad things happen to families? And, and they tend to not understand because either they are ignorant to the fact or they haven't learned it, by fact. But if you go into the Bible and you read the Bible, this world that we live in isn't the world of God. This world belongs to the devil. Mm-hmm. This is his playground. And our jobs as Christians is to make heaven on earth. So we're supposed to do the best we can to make it resemble what heaven would be like here as far as our time is here for the time being. Because eventually we are going home. But this world that we live in and we dwell in, this is the evil playground. And that's why evil has so much more ground over God. And also because not a lot of people choose to walk in faith nowadays. It's very hard to face that fact of the reality of God and Jesus and the Ten Commandments and how to live that life and how to walk this creed. And a lot of people, like I could tell you with me and young, it was easier to be with the people that, weren't than to walk on your own in it. And, it takes time to develop that. And I feel that the more educated people can be about the truth, the more they're going to understand, the world is not getting better. You guys turn on your news, look outside. I got 2 young kids in school right now that I'm dealing with things I would have never thought to be dealing with them in their own public schools.
Yeah.
And it's getting bad. Here in California, it's getting really bad. And to the point where my daughter's homeschooled right now, and we're trying to find, and my son has special needs, we're trying to find a homeschool program for him right now. And it's just getting, ridiculous at this point. And the best thing we can do is walk with God and try to live in his image as much as we can as our time is here. Because, I feel in my heart, we're going to be going home really soon. Unless somehow he creates a miracle and things start to change for the better. But I feel like the rapture is going to be coming. If it hasn't started already, it's going to be started real soon.
I've been dealing with that lately. I've been dealing with that question myself lately. Is it cynical Is it cynical to think that it's too late for America to turn around, or is it being real?
Honestly, my opinion would say it's. I think it's real, but then also I wouldn't want to say I'm completely lost hope. I do believe that if the majority of us, unite and band together for the right, I do believe that we can turn things around. It's just a matter of if we're going to be able to make that movement or not.
Yeah, I had a comment that fires something off in me because I was feeling that way. Oh, it's too late. And then I looked at like the last 3 or 4 Supreme Court rulings. Mm-hmm. And, and then I look at the relationship God had with Israel, how many times they turned it around, failed. That, God said, if I've created you under a blessing and a curse. Okay. That's for all people, but Israel specifically, you're blessed if you come towards me. As you leave me, you become cursed. I give you over to your enemies, and then Israel repents, and God comes back and helps them. How many times is that going to happen? My hope is, hey, America maybe will repent. The Supreme Court certainly has taken some views that make me think that we're not quite at this tipping point where, Christians are going to become the oppressed and the abused, but we're close. I think we've got another chance. Sorry, I know he didn't ask me that question, Steve.
No. I get it because it's a very good endpoint, and I agree 100%. I feel, like I said, I do believe it's. If you want to be blatantly look at the facts, it does look grim, but in the reality with the power of God, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Amen. Jesus created miracles. He rose from the dead himself. He defeated death. And I was talking with the pastor not too long ago, and he told me that there was I'm not too sure if it was a story from the Bible or it was related to, but he was referencing a story that he had read that where when Jesus was dead for those 3 days in the tomb, he was fighting the devil in hell to conquer death and defeated him and came back over that. So if that's a possibility, anything is a possibility at this point. Right. With the power of the Lord. Point. If I can't say that I can't say we're completely screwed. We have God in our team. That's like being in the rookies and having Michael Jordan. He's unstoppable. We have the upper hand. It's just like I just believe it's going to take enough of us as a country to band together and move in the right direction.
Well, we've got to give him the reins. Just like I was speaking to a deconstructed Christian recently, and they said, well, just look at what God did to Lot's wife. And I was like, no, God wanted to save Lot's wife. God laid out a plan to save Lot's wife, but she wasn't supposed to look around, and she looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt. God's plan was to save her, and she looked back. Well, why did God even create the possibility of her looking back? It's like, I don't have the answer to all these caveats of these spider web notions that you're going to go down.
But why are you missing the point that you're Lot's wife? Yeah. You're looking around at everything but what God told you to do.
Exactly. And then you're blaming God when something bad happens, and God's like, bro.
Yeah, dude.
I was like, bro, I'm giving you the path.
I should not have to suffer the consequences of my decisions and actions.
Yeah.
I am God.
Does that sound as stupid as it sounds coming out of my mouth?
Well, I'm a Christian and I have to. So, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous.
Yeah, because I don't listen to the Holy Spirit all the time. Yes,
and you suffer through the consequences.
Yeah, I do. Sure do.
And you learn your lesson and you go on and you don't do it again.
Yeah, well... Yeah.
Well,
we try our best not to do it again.
It takes a few times.
It takes a handful of times.
How thick is that skull?
You have no clue, dude.
What did God call all of us? A stiff-necked people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you understand the stiff-neck part of it?
Yes.
Yes. I don't want to hear it again. Okay, Stephen. No.
Just another thing I think people need to be cautious of nowadays is, especially like you're saying, like if you're not a person who walks in the faith every day, knowing that you're on the fence or you're even on the other side, when you get good things that happen in life, there's people that they'll hit the lottery, they'll win something. First thing they do is they thank God for their blessing. But if you're not walking in faith in the relationship with God, that might not be God blessing you.
Right.
You know, that might be the devil. It might be to keep you on that path that you're already on without having the faith that you need, thinking that, you know, you're living that life and you're still getting a blessing. It's not going to happen. I was just having a conversation with people about this the other day in my church group. And sometimes you got to be careful with, you know, if you're not in the faith, if you're in the faith, then you know where your blessings are coming from. But if you're not, then you need to be careful and cautious on that, because you can be giving praise to the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I completely agree with what you just said.
Yeah, you could be getting blessed by the wrong thing and not even know it. Yeah, you got to be connected with God constantly to know where you stand with Him, right?
Yeah. Good example of rock stars who basically sell their soul. You know, they get all the worldly blessings. They're empires of ego. They make millions, and then they die at 42.
Yeah,
and their lives are filled with futility and pain, and they destroy themselves and the people that they have relationships with, and that's.
And one last thing I want to throw out there to you guys, because I'm pretty sure I don't know if you guys are going to be wrapping up or not. Just in case you guys were, one last thing on my part, I just wanted to use you guys' platform to throw this out to the world. I've been doing a lot of research on it, and I'm actually going today with my family to go and support. We were going to try to go yesterday, but, you know, due to the holiday and a bunch of things, we weren't able to get out there and do it. But I just want to encourage everybody, whether you're a Christian or whatever faith you choose to walk in, or whether you consider yourself to be even an atheist or whatever. I believe it's important that every person in this world needs to go and see the new movie called Sound of Freedom, made by James Caviezel about Tim Ballard, and the story about the sex trafficking of children that's going on in the world right now. You know, as America, we're one of the biggest buyers of child pornography in the world right now. You know, and we buy the most out of any other country in the world.
Wow.
And that's a big problem. And, you know, this movie, I haven't seen it. I'm going later this afternoon with my family. But the reviews I've heard and the interviews I've heard, it seems amazing. And, you know, it's going to have a very strong impact on the world, similar to that The Passion had. You know, so I want to encourage everybody to get out there and see it. It's not in every theater, but I'm sure it'll probably be in a local theater to you guys somewhere out there. Try to get out there and see it, everybody. You know, it's worth the watch. And maybe if you're not in the faith and you see something that's real like that, maybe that'll tug your heart along, you know, strong enough to get you to start believing and get you to start walking and, you know, push you in the right direction where you need to be. Because there's a lot of evil in the world right now. And, you know, God's greatest blessings and cares is his children, and they're getting targeted the worst right now. And I got two little ones growing up, so it hits home with stuff like that. And you know, I just want to encourage everybody to get out there and see it, because I feel like it's going to be a big impact, and it's not getting enough publicity as it should be. No news people are talking about it. There's no commercials on TV. You know, nobody's giving the media time. So I just feel like, you know, you guys have a decent platform. You know, maybe whoever's listening, if they haven't heard about it, you have now. You know, go check it out.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man, and I'll see you around.
Hold on. Let me read one more verse for what he said.
Okay.
For though we live in a world, for though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine powers to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve. It's nice meeting you, man.
Yep, nice meeting you, Steven. I'll be hollering at you soon, okay, buddy?
God bless you, man.
And show his favor in each and every one of your lives. I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart.
All right, brother. All right, bye.
Thank you. You guys have a blessed day. Thank you.
You too, bud. Well, wasn't that nice? That was cool.
It's intense.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It just kind of tied into what God had showed me over the weekend, and it's just I don't know. I get emotional because I just have that written down right there, where I started to realize that God let me get to that brink to show me that any one of us, no matter how close you are to God, no matter if you're a preacher, no matter if you're the Pope. Well, I mean, I know a lot of people believe that Catholicism's literally Satan, but what I'm saying is you could be the highest highest version of Christian ranking or whatever you want to say. And you could deconstruct too if you don't stay plugged into God. Like, spiritual warfare is for everyone. We literally have to engage in war every single day, or Satan will get you.
I think it comes down to simply to surrender. You're either surrendered or you're not. If you're not going to stick around for God's pruning.
Exactly.
And because God prunes all of us. The people, whoever said God doesn't give you more than you can handle, that's the biggest lie. At least for my life, he has broken me and then reformed me over and over to stretch me into something stronger and better and more useful to him.
Well, the way I take that verse is like
the way
death.
you said that.
Because, yeah, it does feel like it's more than you can handle, for sure.
Sure.
At what point does this phone become useless? When the battery dies. Why does the battery die?
Because it's not plugged into the source.
Exactly.
Boom!
Bam! Well, just
I saw that coming from a mile away.
No,
you can't drop the mic. It's on a stand.
Phone drop.
There you go.
You're so predictable, Larry. Saw that from a mile away.
Yeah. As soon as I picked it up, you knew what I was getting ready to say.
Well, I can tell you, even when that phone's on, it's more trouble than it's worth usually.
No, I agree. Especially mine, because it ignores the do not disturb. It ignores every other.
I wonder if
other
God
deal.
thinks that
silent.
about it.
It's on silent, but it still rings.
I want to say that too, Christians. Stop telling deconstructed Christians that they never were a Christian.
Stop that.
I know it pokes a hole in your theology of once saved, always saved. I know that. Yeah, I know that's probably very difficult for you to get behind and be like, well, if once saved, always saved is true, then they must have never been saved, because if they were saved, then they're still going to heaven, right? And they're like, but they can't because they're talking all this crap about God. It's like,
it's Schrodinger's cat.
Maybe once saved, always saved isn't true. Have you ever thought of that?
Hey, like Pastor Gary said.
That's a paradox. That gives them a paradox.
Like Pastor Gary said, it should be once saved and always saved, because you should stay plugged into the source, and then you have protection. You don't battle your flesh by yourself. You battle your flesh with the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
And then you are able to stay focused on God. I know that in my world now, because I started in the church, I walked away from the church, I came back. I didn't have a relationship with Christ then. Like, I knew about him, but I didn't know him. Now I know him. I have a relationship with him, and I don't want what the world has to offer in the least bit.
No. Yeah. And I don't know all the details. I want to say that clearly. I don't know the details, like where I've never given up God completely, where I was like, you know what, forget you. But there was a point, I mean, recently where I'm like literally sitting here thinking like, are you even real, dude? Like, are you even active? Like, are you even active in my life? Like every day, like what's going, like, but like I said, it wasn't.
Did you eat?
It was because my own evil desires. I mean, like I said, I realized that, but it's just one of those things, man. It's one of those things that this once save always thing. I don't really know. I don't have all the answers to the questions, but
just quit making excuses not to trust in God. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the truth of it.
And you said that too about being submitted fully to God. That's the hardest thing. And I can probably guarantee you that there's still some things that I'm going to say no to him too. Like, you know, like
that's part of Christian growth.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking at the party we were at last night. Yes, Christian's party. I couldn't pass that one up. I was talking with Bo. We interviewed Bo on episode 4, I believe it is. Bo was the way we were discussing. We as Americans actually do not understand kingship. We don't understand that when the king said something, it became law immediately. We don't have that understanding, so therefore, at times, we don't obey God because we have never had that training from kingship to, you know, our president says something, we can agree with him or disagree. When a king says something, you don't have an option.
Yeah.
You disobey, you die. I mean, that they can actually do that. Just check out some of these dictatorship type things. That can be a king, good king or bad king.
Mm-hmm.
our king requires, there's a whole book that says it, our obedience. It shouldn't be a question of whether or not we obey.
Yeah, obedience is a requirement.
It should be instantaneous.
Yep.
Because whatever he asks us or directs us to do, it's for our own good.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is he's a benevolent king that loves us and allows us mercy when we fail and come back and say, whoops, screwed that one up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wind this thing down a little bit, but I'm curious because I'm building a little hype for episode 50, Mark, and last week we were talking about the idea of possibly each one of us picking a guest on to come on. So I'm not saying that this would be your favorite, but I just want to get your thoughts, Mark, right now if you just had to like throw it out there for episode 50. And this is not making your choice. It's just a speculation. Just right now, the thought, who's your first thought that comes to mind of who you would have come on for episode 50?
Are we supposed to say it out loud?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this is just talk. Who would you have come on?
Is this like a fantasy thing? Like if anybody I could talk to on
No, from guests that we've already interviewed.
From guests we've already
Who would you pick?
I would like to hear from Jess. Is it Jess?
Jess. Okay, you probably just took Larry's. All right, so
like Jess.
Pagan Witch Jess. Mark would like to hear from Pagan Witch Jess. Okay, Larry, if you had to pick, who'd you pick?
I was thinking Indy.
Andy? You'd like to hear from Indy? Okay.
Yeah.
Mine would be Dan.
Dan? Yeah.
Remember Dan? Satanist Dan?
Oh, Satanist Dan. Yeah.
That was your first episode. Well, no, that was one of your very first episodes. That was the one I remember where I told you we were having a Luciferian come on, and you turned around right where you're stood, and you're like, "Why? What's going on?"
Right.
Like, yeah. I'd like to have him back on.
That was before you got a microphone, I think.
That was our first one where we were like, that was our first episode. Was like, what are we doing here? Like, yeah. I'd like to take us back to there because now I feel like we're like seasoned vets, like. You know,
Jess is the one that's married to a believer, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, she's the one that came and visited.
Yeah,
here,
she came and visited.
Came to church with us.
Kind of curious because I've got this. The Holy Spirit told me He's bringing her back into the
Praise
family.
the Lord.
Yeah.
Well, we told her that from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also mentioned perhaps doing live where we could actually have a call-in board and people actually call in and asking more questions than what we would question. I'm looking around the room going, are we going to get a bigger office before then?
No, we could do live with we could do live with just this same software we use right now. It would look exactly the same.
Yeah.
But the only difference is Angela would have to be reading the comments and stuff and we could respond to them like they would be coming through the software. And I've also thought about here soon, whenever I get some free time, I've thought about making it to where we can actually start interviewing the people over Zoom. So whenever for all the YouTube audience, they would actually get to see the person that we were interviewing instead of it just being a voice, which most of our audience is on audio only anyway, so that wouldn't really affect you guys in that regard. But for the YouTube audience,
you know, that would be pretty cool to get a little bit bigger facility and to have for Zooms, you know, have the picture here so we could actually see.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to see it just yet. Well, I mean, I could probably get a screen. I could probably get a screen to where one of us or more could see it. So I've got so much I'm watching while this is going on anyway. I could put a screen up to where you could see the person. But then you'd be like, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, I was having problems.
I don't have my bifocals on.
I don't know what. I was having problems reading today. The words kept jumping on me. And it made me sound like I can't read out loud.
The words were jumping on? What do you mean?
Yeah, no.
Like you're having trouble with your vision?
Yeah, my eyes, yeah.
Why?
Well, because my prescription's old, because I'm 60. I'm getting ready to turn 61.
Old.
Because I have it held back, and I needed it more up like this, and I should.
You think you need some reading glasses? Oh, okay, you need reading glasses.
I occasionally put some 125s over this.
Gotcha.
I mean,
Larry's gonna slide into the grave with all kinds of dents and dings all over his meat chip.
Hey, my wife calls me potato head.
I pictured him actually doing like the baseball slide into a grave when you said that.
See, I do this.
Oh
at
no,
church.
dude!
I do this at church so that I can.
Oh no, dude!
So that I can see the pastor.
Is this
and
real?
Still see the words.
Is this real, Mark?
It's
Well,
real
this way I can
because
see you, but I can look down here and see the words. See?
This is happening, dude.
you just need to get a pair of bifocals, dude.
For this audio-only listeners,
I
you've
did-
got to go to YouTube and check out what Larry's wearing right now, dude.
I did. Hey, they match my visor.
Are they pink?
Is it pink
They're
or
salmon.
hot red?
They're salmon.
Salmon. Okay.
Salmon color.
Whatever color.
Red.
Good
I don't
grief, dude. This is real.
Would it be a problem for you if
Do
I
they
had
still
a pair
make
of red
those?
glasses? I don't know. Darcia used to be in the glass business. She works for Foster Grant, so
You're just wearing those like there's not a problem in the world.
there's
You're
not
just
a
like,
problem in
whatever.
the world. I can see better. I loaned them to him in the Bible study on
he
Thursday
did.
night.
Oh,
He was like, "Well, wait,
man.
they do work."
Yes.
But
You
they're
wore them too?
Yes.
You weren't just slightly insecure with those on?
Oh, man.
Why?
No.
Do they?
I have done things that have ruined slightly insecure
Yeah.
long
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Do they really offend you that much?
No, I'm just honestly making
just
content,
laughing.
bro. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been kind of. I do know that the very first time I wore them in church, I think Pastor Kevin looked at me and went,
yeah.
like, but I've also have a darker pair that folded that I used to put.
You need little arms with different focal length.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, is this better? Is this better?
Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah, I know the audience enjoys when I roast you
No,
and they roast you too, so
that's all right.
I just develop things that
I
were-
tried bifocals not too long ago, and I had them on a pair of sunglasses, really, really, really dark sunglasses, biker style, wraparounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I had bifocals on that, and I had bifocals on my regular. But at the time I was a driver. I can't do that because it required me to do a lot of this because the bifocals wasn't strong enough to be able to see the odometer and the speedometer very well.
Oh,
Okay.
seems
Because
dangerous.
it was just outside the range of the bifocal.
Right.
And then on the motorcycle, it was like, because I had the Road King at that time, so my speedometer was on the tank.
No.
So it's like,
Yeah.
having to see it, it was no.
And you can't
So I went
be a
and took 'em
biker
out.
wearing that. You can't do that.
No, these would.
Some
fly
guy
out.
would just pull up to you on his bike and be like, "I'm gonna kick this guy's butt."
He wouldn't have a chance.
Hey.
You couldn't keep up with Larry.
Yeah.
He took exits.
I wish you had. I wish you had rode. Hey, I wish you had rode with me a few times. My wife looked up for the answers on this one. She already knows.
Right.
She had the brake. She had a brake on her back seat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was right here.
Yep.
She would grab, boom,
Oh,
like this,
yeah.
and I would start, backing off because it makes your arm flinch
Uh-huh.
and your throttle hand kind of.
Because she was getting, yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
move, Garcia.
Ooh.
See,
Man.
with me, it's my wife's legs. She's got like these scissor legs. I get
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you back out that throttle, don't you? Yeah.
Man.
But no, she used to get so angry when we would.
What'd you do?
There's a lot of times that we went triple digits.
Mm-hmm.
And she was okay as long as, I block her pretty. People, her hair at times when we rode, people would think I had a ponytail because her head would be buried right here.
Right.
And it'd just be the ponytail. And I'm a lot bigger than she is, so nobody saw her back there.
I'd love to see that with Darcia's hair on the back of Larry. And then he's probably listening to Highway to the Danger Zone.
Oh, yeah. That would definitely pull the throttle back.
And then he just looks over you like this.
But you're shooting the corners,
Dun, dun,
and you're laying
dun,
it
dun.
down. I did cloverleaf and drag the floorboards.
Yeah.
And it would be like 40, 45 miles an hour, just laying it down. And I mean, yeah, I would make it home from work on 44th and Rockwell South, and I lived in Warwicker, so that means 63rd and MacArthur. And I would come up the highway in 4 o'clock traffic, and I would be doing 80, 85.
Ripping.
No, just
Weaving through traffic.
just like that. I mean,
I'd have been in my car. Look at that cool guy.
no.
Look at that cool dude. Look at, you're so cool.
No, it wasn't about being cool. It was about.
I'd open my door.
I could make it, Mark. I could make it home in 12 minutes.
Wow.
Wow, dude.
12 minutes. There was a lot of times in the morning on the way to work that I would be zipping 80, and nobody's up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a pretty good clear road. And I would have cops, even hypos, pull right up on me, look over at me,
and be like, dude.
And then go.
And you'd be like, oh, slow down? Are you saying slow down?
No,
because if you're not, I'll keep going.
Wave and keep it consistent.
Right.
Yeah.
See, what they want you to do is back off.
Right.
But it was like, no, they knew every morning they saw me.
Right.
Whoa.
This is what I do.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah.
There's that cool guy again.
No,
that cool dude.
Look at that cool dude.
It'd be 40 degrees. I'm in a pair of shorts on the way to work.
Why has he been listening to
Highway?
Why has he been listening to Danger Zone for the last 5 years every morning? Is that his theme song?
Nah, I didn't have a radio on the Road King. I didn't get that until I had the Ultra.
He had his own theme music going in his head.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it was a great
Highway to the Larry Zone.
Highway to the
Larry Zone. God took that away from me. I don't have a bike anymore. I don't ride. I had back surgery. God said sell the bike. I sold the bike.
Do you ever see yourself getting one back?
No, I made an agreement.
Never.
I had to go help Lindell. He bought a couple of bikes. I had to ride one, or he asked me to, help him transfer one. I rode one up for him and put it in storage. No.
Did you miss it? Was it fun riding it again?
No, it was different because there is a part of when you ride, you become part of the bike. When
so
you
it wasn't
climb on somebody else's bike, it's not the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
One, and two, I haven't ridden in 2 years. And then I get on this bike and I ride it, and I don't know anything about the bike, so I'm very cautious on it. I'm not up there trying to do...
Just doing free, being free.
But at the same time, one of the guys asked me, you can come borrow my bike anytime. And I said, no. I said, when God wants me to have a motorcycle, he will give me a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, I'm not in search of it. It has no calling on my life anymore. When it first happened, of course, you have withdrawals, and every motorcycle that goes down the road.
Yeah.
All of my people.
Yeah. So it does take quite a bit.
When you hear a motorcycle, do you just transport outside and you're shirtless and you have a koozie in your hand?
No.
You're just like, how did I get here? No. I just heard a motorcycle.
No. It's like hearing wolves in the distance now.
Yeah.
It's like, now it's not the wolves calling me, it's the coyotes.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, no.
There you go.
God has me focused on this and I took that away from me so that I would not be distracted by that. And
there you go.
And the Harley took me into a life that moved me further away from the Lord. Yes, you can ride a motorcycle and go to church.
But you couldn't.
But I couldn't.
There you go.
At that time.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. Yeah. Let's wrap it up. We're at 148. Any final words?
Yes, Jesus loves you, and so do I.
Okay. Thank you for watching and listening. We are out.
I'll take you home.
Thank you so much for listening to the Help My Unbelief podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And more importantly, tune in every Tuesday at 9 a.m. for new episodes.